Hello, today we recall something that has long been in the shadows. We are talking about Ashashliq, the great famine that claimed lives of over 1.5 million people in Kazakhstan, leaving deep scars on the fate of entire nation. This was not only tragedy, it was deliberate crime against humanity.
This tragedy was kept silent. In Soviet times, the famine of 1931-33 was portrayed as a result of natural disasters. However, after the collapse of the Soviet Union and the opening of archives, including the Central Archive of the Communist Party of the Soviet Union, it became clear that the tragedy in Kazakhstan was not an accident but a result of deliberate policy that destroyed an entire people. Our central question: was the famine in Kazakhstan a result of bad decisions and misfortune, or was it an organized crime by the authorities aimed at deliberate destruction of the people?
By the early 1930s, Kazakhstan was unique among other Soviet republics. Its population was primarily nomadic, living in harmony with nature, and its economic system was based on raising livestock, which was central to their traditions and culture. Collectivization in Kazakhstan. In 1928, forced collectivization began in Kazakhstan, which affected the very core of Kazakh life. Nomadic Kazakhs were forced to leave their traditional lands and settle in collective farms. This decision not only disrupted their traditional economy, but also undermined the entire social structure of the people.
The intensification of livestock, the primary source of sustenance for Kazakh, was the next step toward catastrophe. As a result of expropriation policy, in 1930, Kazakhstan had 40.5 million head of livestock. By 1933, this number had dropped to just 4.5 million. This led to the onset of mass famine, affecting all regions of the republic. Causes of famine. The causes of catastrophe were not only economic mistakes and political naivety, but also deliberate policy aimed at destroying entire social groups. The failed grain requisitions policy, combined with forced resettlement, led to a global demographic catastrophe. People tried to escape. There are numerous accounts of entire families migrating to neighboring regions, trying to find refuge in Siberia, Kazakhstan, Tajikistan, China, and Iran. During these migrations, people died from disease, exhaustion, thirst, and cold. According to various estimates, more than 1 million people left Kazakhstan in search of refuge, but even there they faced harsh realities. Nowhere were they welcomed, and in most cases they found no salvation. Turkestan, Altai, Siberia, these regions could not accept such an influx of people.
Witness testimonies from this tragedy are becoming more vivid and terrifying with each passing year. One such account goes: "We ate leaves from trees and grass. Many people left, no one returned. Milk and meat disappeared. Do you know how we suffered? We just chewed tree bark. Many received how they ate animal skins, chewed grass, and sometimes even dirt. It wasn't just the elderly and the children who died. Most robust, hardworking people perished too." An important point to note is how the tragedy and the crime were concealed from society and foreign observers. The Soviet leadership for several years denied the existence of famine. The figures and statistics presented in reports concealed the real scale of the catastrophe. Historians argue that about the famine was concealed until the late 1980s, making it difficult to restore an objective picture of the event. Mortality from famine in Kazakhstan reached colossal proportions if in some areas of Ukraine. The mortality rate from hunger in 1932 was up to 20%. In Kazakhstan, it reached 50% in some villages. The graph by year illustrating the decline in the population of Kazakhstan from 1930 to 1933 shows that in grazing areas the number of deaths approached 80% of the original population.
It is important to understand that unlike Ukraine, where grain was confiscated, in Kazakhstan, the entire traditional economy and culture were destroyed. This wasn't just a physical extermination, it was a cultural genocide. The people suffering from famine were forced to abandon their traditional practices. Many Kazakh customs and rituals were lost. The Kazakh language, traditional music, and the folk crafts were at risk of disappearing. This not was just a physical famine, it was a cultural famine, which destroyed the vital connections between generations. Central archives and reports confirm that the authorities did not provide sufficient help. In archival materials, we can see how the authorities attempted to conceal the scale of the tragedy. One of the most vivid examples is the actual ignoring of pleas for help from local leaders and the subsequent punishment of those who tried to speak the truth. Video materials and photographs of the victims of the tragedy presented in the Museum of Famine Victims in Almaty and other archival testimonials vividly demonstrate the scale of the famine. These are not just the dry statistics, these are human tragedies, faces of the people who are no longer with us.
Conclusion. The famine of 1931-33 in Kazakhstan was deliberate crime aimed at destroying an entire nation. It was the result of not just poor economic policies but also a deliberate, destructive will by the authorities who cared little for the fate of ordinary people. It wasn't just a famine, it was genocide, during which an entire culture was wiped out along with its people. Thank you for your attention. Let's not forget this tragedy. Our memory is the only protection to ensure that such events are never repeated.